What is going on, everyone? For this video, I'm going to try something completely different. Try to break down the Ollie. I personally don't know where I should put my feet on my board when I Ollie, and so we're going to break this down in super slow-mo and try to figure this out alongside with all of you. So stay tuned to see what the best way to Ollie is. Alright, what is up, everyone? We are out here right now. Does it really matter how you stand? And how much does it matter? We're gonna go over a whole bunch of different stances. This is gonna be stance number 1. Stance number 2 is gonna move that front foot down. And stance number 3 is gonna move that front foot even farther down. Let's take a look at an Ollie from stance number 1. This is where the toe of my front foot is hanging off slightly. We can see that the Ollie is totally fine and it has essentially no effect. This is still stance number 1, but now just a view from the back. Looking at stance number 2, where my front foot toe is essentially in line with the top of the board, we can see that once again, this has essentially no effect on my ability to Ollie. And just a look at stance number 2 from the back. And stance number 3, where my front foot is the farthest back, we can see that once again there is no effect on the Ollie. Stance 3, back view. What I've learned just from doing it right now is essentially I don't think it matters a whole lot where your front foot is in terms of how on or off the board it is. As long as the front foot is sliding straight and off the center of the board, it seems to be totally fine. So it doesn't really matter where you place it, as long as you slide it off correctly. Maybe the next obvious question is, does it matter where you place your back foot on the board though? Here we see the familiar stance 1 we've already covered. Stance 4 is going to be with our back foot turned inwards, and stance 5 is going to be with the back foot turned outwards. Just a quick recap of what a stance 1 Ollie looks like here. Now let's take a look at stance 4 with our back foot turned inwards. Once again, we see that there has been no change to our ability to Ollie. Here we're just taking a look from the back. Here in stance 5, where my back foot is turned out and forward, we can start seeing something very interesting. So as you can see, it did not go well at all. But what's really happening here? Why is my back foot causing a problem? Well, let's take a closer look. My back foot is only slightly sticking out and turned outwards. If we compare to stance number 1, we can see very little difference, but this is still very important. This is important because in stance 1, when my back foot pushes down to pop, it pushes straight into the middle of the tail. In stance 5 here, we can see that the back foot is actually pushing at an angle and causing the board to almost start a pop shove it or tray flip rotation. My front foot tries to save the day, but unfortunately my back foot is already quite misplaced from the initial positioning. And to show you that this is not a one-off kind of situation, here are some examples where it just kept on happening. I actually was never able to do a proper Ollie with my back foot in this position. So I've heard a lot of people say that putting your front foot farther or closer to the front bolts makes a huge difference because you have a lot more distance to be able to actually push your front foot out. So apparently, the more distance you have for your front foot to kick out, the better. That's what I've heard, but I honestly don't know if that's really true. It kind of makes sense. But we're gonna put this to the test right now. For comparison, here's stance 1 that we've already seen. Stance 6 is gonna be with our front foot close to the back bolts. And stance 7 is gonna be with our front foot really close to the front bolts. Just as a reminder, here's what a stance 1 Ollie looks like. Now here is stance 6. As you can see, my front foot is very close to the back bolts. And we see a very nice Ollie, but I'm not sure if that is any higher than any of the other Ollies we've seen. Here we can see stance 1, stance 6 side by side, and at peak height, stance 6 is only slightly higher than stance 1. I want you to keep in mind that I did try stance 6 a bunch more times and I was never really able to get it any higher than what we just saw there. I also want to point out that because my feet were so close together, it definitely messed with my balance and caused for my landings to be much more inconsistent. Finally, we're going to be looking at stance 7, where my front foot is very close to the front bolts. Here there's very little travel for the front foot, and you can see it's extremely hard to get any height on the ollie. This is actually one of my better ones. Here we can see a few more, and you can see that because my front foot has so little distance to travel, you just have so much trouble getting any height on the ollie. At this point, we can confidently say the biggest two factors are how far along your board you place your front foot and at what position you place your back foot as well. At this point, you must be wondering, what is the best position? Well, in terms of performance, there's quite a lot that are comparable, but in terms of what felt the most natural and most comfortable, I found something in between stance 1 and stance 4 to feel the best. So something that looks kind of like this. Hopefully this video helped you guys understand what the best way to stand when you're doing an ollie is. Honestly, I haven't seen any video out there doing a nice in-depth analysis of this. If you did, definitely share that in the comments below. Let me know if you guys found it useful to break down a trick like this and understand exactly what matters when you're doing an ollie. I'm thinking of making some more videos similar to this for different kinds of tricks so we can understand together what really matters. I make bi-weekly skateboarding videos, so consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.